sexual harassment claims against yet another powerful man in media inspired New York Times White House correspondent Glenn Thrush to post an impassioned note on his Facebook page in October, calling on his fellow journalists to stand by women entering the field. In the post, which linked to an article about the latest accusations against political journalist Mark Halpern, Thrush wrote, "Young people who come into a newsroom deserve to be taught our trade, given our support and enlisted in our calling, not betrayed by little men who believe they are bigger than the mission." It was a noble statement, but some Washington journalists I spoke to say it rings hollow, given Thrush's own behavior with young women in the industry. He kept saying he's an advocate for women and women journalists, a 23-year-old woman told me, recounting an incident with Thrush from this past June. "That's how he presented himself to me. He tried to make himself seem like an ally and a mentor." She paused. "Kind of ironic now." Thrush, 50, is one of the New York Times' star White House reporters whose chronicles of the Trump administration recently earned him and his frequent writing partner Maggie Haberman a major book deal. Thrush and the young woman met at her colleague's going-away party at a bar near the Politico newsroom, she told me, and shared a few rounds of drinks in a booth. The night, she said, ended on the Washington Street corner, where Thrush left her in tears after she resisted his advances. The encounter was troubling enough to the woman that her friend Bianca Ocasio, also 23 and a journalist, confronted Thrush about his behavior via text message the next day. "I want to make sure you don't lure young women aspiring journalists into those situations ever again," she texted. "So help me out here. How can I do that?" Thrush was apologetic but defensive. "I don't lure anybody ever," he wrote, according to screenshots provided by Ocasio. "I got drunk because I got some shitty health news, and I am acutely aware of the hurdles that young women face in this business and have spent the better part of 20 years advocating for women journalists." If Thrush is acutely aware of what young women face in the business of political journalism, he should also know it's because he himself is one of the problems women face. 5 years ago, when Thrush and I were colleagues at Politico, I was in the same bar as Ocasio's friend, perhaps the same booths, when he caught me off guard, put his hand on my thigh, and suddenly started kissing me. Thrush says that he recalls the incident differently. 3 young women I interviewed, including the young woman who met Thrush in June, described to me a range of similar experiences, from unwanted groping and kissing to wet kisses out of nowhere to hazy sexual encounters that played out under the influence of alcohol. Each woman described feeling differently about these experiences: scared, violated, ashamed, weirded out. I was, and am, angry. Details of their stories suggest a pattern. All of the women were in their 20s at the time. They were relatively early in their careers compared to Thrush, who was the kind of seasoned journalist who would be good to know. At an event with alcohol, he made advances. Afterward, they, as I did, thought it best to stay on good terms with Thrush, whatever their feelings. I apologize to any woman who felt uncomfortable in my presence, and for any situation where I behave inappropriately. Any behavior that makes women feel disrespected or uncomfortable is unacceptable, Thrush said in a statement emailed to me on November 19. In interviews with about 40 people in and around media who know Thrush, I got a picture of a reporter whose title doesn't capture his power and stature. People who've worked with him say he can get a writer's name in front of the right editor, if he wants. Newsroom leaders care what he thinks. Some reporters said Thrush had used his connections to help them land jobs or develop new sources. When just sitting at a bar with a powerful man comes at a price, the downfall of Hollywood titan Weinstein has been a catalyst for a movement to stamp out workplace harassment, particularly the variety to pit powerful men against much less powerful women. They are facing consequences for their behavior like never before, including men in media. Halpern lost a coveted book deal. NPR News chief Michael Oreskes resigned. Leon Wieseltier lost funding for his new magazine. And Lockhart Steele, the editorial director of Vox Media, Vox's parent company, was fired for misconduct. Thrush wasn't my boss at Politico. He was a reporter and I was an editor. We were on different teams and hardly crossed each other's paths. But he was an incredibly influential person in the newsroom and in political journalism, a world I was still trying to break into in a meaningful way at the time. It wasn't that Thrush was offering